Hey everyone, and welcome to my Spider-Man No Way Home review. This will have spoilers, but I'm here to answer, was the movie worth watching? Was it not? Was it good? Was it bad? That's what we're going to answer today. And even if you have some spoilers going into this movie, if you have not bought a ticket, I suggest you do because it was such a great movie. Just the fact that they finished this trilogy, I would say, off with a bang. This was pretty much, I would say, on par with Endgame in terms of the stakes, in terms of the acting, action, special effects, storytelling, and how it will set up for future movies. I think they did an incredible job, so I will be talking and giving my opinion and obviously what happened in the movie to just justify my thoughts on it. So jumping into the movie, we open up with the scene that Peter Parker is known to everyone, at least the MCU version, until we have the other Peters that will be joining in the MCU universe, and that is a spoiler right off the gun. So basically, the movie opens up where Quentin Beck, which was Mysterio, he tells everyone that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and that really sets Tom Holland Spider-Man up for being in a disaster because his life gets pretty much turned upside down. Now, the one plot hole I kind of thought of even at the end of Far From Home was if Quentin Beck had the glasses that were Stark Technology, and even though he didn't have control of them in terms of Tom Holland when he did do this broadcast, wouldn't there be a way where the glasses could have been secretly recording or always had some form of recording on themselves to show what Quentin Beck was doing and how he was pretty much evil or had evil intentions from the beginning? So I don't understand why that wasn't able, because the problem with Peter Parker being known as Spider-Man was he pretty much gets framed for killing Quentin Beck, which everyone thinks is a superhero, and it just didn't make the experience really good for Peter Parker. So he basically gets arrested by the FBI, and Happy and Aunt May break up. So that was pretty funny because I thought the relationship was going pretty strong. Now, this was a really good scene where Daredevil, I haven't been following the Disney Plus series with, Hawkeye, and I did watch WandaVision, so I have to catch up, but Daredevil was Peter Parker's lawyer, and everyone was hating him, and he was pretty much in his last year of high school, and they were going to MIT. So that was the big premise of this movie. It revolved around the fact that because Spider-Man is now known as Peter Parker, anyone associated to Peter Parker, their life got wrecked as well. So his two best friends, which is one his love interest, which is MJ, and then Ned, they were trying to get into MIT, but because they knew Spider-Man and Spider-Man was public enemy number one, they weren't getting accepted into MIT. And Peter didn't want to be responsible for affecting the lives of his friends and family just because the whole world knew that he was Spider-Man now. So he went to the Sanctum Sanctorum to seek out Doctor Strange to see if there could be anything done in terms of people forgetting that he is in fact Spider-Man. And this is where we learned that Doctor Strange is not the Supreme Sorcerer because during the snap he was not there. So basically, Doctor Strange, which we all saw the scene in the trailers, he does the spell, but Peter starts changing it. So instead of everyone forgetting, he starts saying, well, I don't want my, MJ to forget it. I don't want Ned to forget it. I don't want my Aunt May. And they do it so many times. He basically has to change the spell 5 times where he basically lets the spell break. And this is where the rips in the dimensions actually start. But Doctor Strange is able to contain him. Peter was able to talk to Flash, who was already accepted into MIT, to get some information on who was on the board, and with the help of Stark Technology through the glasses, he was able to track down the board member on a bridge. Now, this is where Doc Ock comes and attacks Tom Holland's Spider-Man, not knowing that it's not the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and basically there's this really cool scene where Doc Ock's basically going to kill what he thinks is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but because of the nanotechnology and the suit that Tom Holland was wearing, it goes onto the arms and he's able to control it. So one thing that was really noted is that the MCU universe is way more powerful and smart in terms of comparing it to the other Spider-Man universes. So that's why Peter with the nanotech is able to control Doc Ock, and they basically are able to contain him and bring him back to the Sanctum Sanctorum, where Doctor Strange basically says, did you even talk? Like, this scene was so funny. He goes like, I tried talking to the board member, and Doctor Strange says, you didn't already try that? He's like, and Peter's like, I can do that? And he's like, you're telling me I did this whole spell, but you didn't even attempt to negotiate to see if they would let you into MIT. So I thought that was very funny because, with millennials, they don't really sometimes understand that they can make these changes. It's not, just because you get a rejection letter, it doesn't mean it's 100% final. You can always try to talk in person or try to talk to someone to help you. So I thought that was really, really funny. So basically in the Sanctum Sanctorum, there's a section where he's basically keeping all these multi-dimensional villains or bad guys, and Doc Ock is now trapped and he's still confused how he's here. There's magic. So in that universe, there could be no magic, because what we do learn about that universe too that I will add right now is that there is no Avengers in that universe, which I think is very interesting, but we will talk about that later. So basically, Doctor Strange has this magical box which he can press and it will send everyone back. But before anyone is able to get sent back using that green magical box, they have to make sure that they found everyone. So Doctor Strange takes one of Spidey's web shooters and enchants it to where if he shoots it and it comes into contact with the villain or bad guy from the other dimension, that they will be sent directly into the Sanctum Sanctorum. So basically, there's a little montage where Spider-Man is trying to find everyone else that came in. Now, the list of villains that came from their universe to the MCU was basically the Sinister Six, except there was only 5 of them. So I was expecting potentially Venom filling that 6th spot, but spoiler alert, he does not fill that 6th spot, which was sad to see. But that basically means that Peter has to track down the Lizard, Electrode, Sandman, and the Green Goblin because he already caught Doc Ock, and basically he gets all of them into one location. Now it's back at the Sanctum Sanctorum where all of the villains are being held, that they learned that right before they left their universe, they basically died and came to the MCU universe. And basically how the spell worked was it pulled everyone that knew Spider-Man's true identity into the MCU universe. So that's why they were being pulled right when they perished in their own universe. So if they were going to send back them to their respective universe, that they would basically be sent back to die. And once Doctor Strange explained that to Spider-Man, Spider-Man becomes defiant, takes the green box, and basically a very epic scene battle between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man unfolds where they fight in the Mirrorverse. And then basically what happens is Tom Holland Spider-Man, using trigonometry, is able to tie up Doctor Strange in the mirror universe and take the box where no one can press it to send them back. So I thought that was such an epic fight scene. Now, since Tom Holland Spider-Man secured the green box, he goes back to where he's staying in Happy's apartment, and he has Stark technology where he can reverse engineer whatever's wrong with these villains and help them, so when they get sent back, they don't get sent back to die. So the first person is Doc Ock, and with the help of Osborn, they basically create a new microchip which solves the fact that his arms were controlling him and not himself controlling his arms, and that's what made him evil in the original Spider-Man movies. So that was really cool, and they basically just start reverse engineering everyone. And before Peter can basically save everyone and reverse whatever was wrong with them, you have Green Goblin himself going insane, saying, "You think you're gonna cure the Goblin in me? No way in hell," and basically instructs all the other villains that what makes you special is because you're different and because you can't control your power. So then we see Electro, he actually takes the Stark reactor, which just gives him so much power. So like I said, not only is the MC universe more smart, they have more power. Well, you can link those two together, saying that because they do have the arc reactors, because they're in a smarter universe, so he gets more power. Sandman isn't cured at that time, so the only person that's cured at that point in time is Doc Ock. So throughout that fight, which the Green Goblin basically instigates and basically gets everyone riled up to fight against Spider-Man, it's pretty evident in this point in time that Spider-Man is not capable. With great power now comes great responsibility. Now it's evident in this point in time, Tom Holland Spider-Man is not capable by himself to take down all these villains, because if you think about it, all these villains were taken down in the span of one movie by the respective Spider-Man in their own dimension, own universe. So for one Spider-Man to basically take them all down would be very, very unrealistic. So at the same time, you have Ned and MJ that are together back at Ned's house, and I don't know if it's because he had Strange's ring or he actually is powerful, or it's a combination of both where you need to ring to kind of, personify your magical abilities. He says he wished Peter was here and starts making a portal, and basically that's when Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man comes in and they meet each other for the first time, and they are going to find where Tom Holland is. So it's with the help of MJ that they're able to track down where Tom Holland is, and that's when all three Spider-Mans meet each other for the first time. But at this point, you have to understand that Tom Holland Spider-Man is grieving over the loss of Aunt May, and he's just so fed up. He just wants to press the button, and if the villains die, they die. He's so fed up. He doesn't care. And that's when they all share the loss that they've experienced. So Andrew Garfield Spider-Man talks about losing Gwen and how it just really made him bitter and angry and just not the neighborhood Spider-Man that he should have been in her honor. And then you have Tobey Maguire Spider-Man that talks about losing Uncle Ben, and just when they bring up the fact that Aunt May said with great power comes great responsibility, they say that Uncle Ben said the same thing the day he died. So it's just that importance of sometimes you won't be able to save everyone, but that is the responsibility that comes with the power that you have, is that sometimes it won't work, but you always gotta try, because at the end of the day, that's the power that you have, and therefore that becomes your responsibility. So then that's when they decide to all team up to take down the Sinister Five at this point, because we don't have six and Venom doesn't show up, and there's an epic fight scene where they all work together. So the aim of this fight scene is to reverse anything that the villains are dealing with. So Sandman, turn him back to normal, same with Green Goblin, turn him back to normal, get Electro to go back to normal, and Doc Ock was already cured at this point. So in terms, and the Lizard as well, make sure that Connors goes back to normal. So through them all working together, they're able to do that. One important scene that I already made analysis on was the fact that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man gets redemption by saving MJ, and the scene looks very similar from his own universe when he wasn't able to save Gwen, and that was really, really heartfelt in the theaters, where everyone was just sad because he just thought of when he didn't save Gwen and just, having her die in his arms pretty much. The fact that he could get some redemption from that was just great to see. And basically, Doc Ock actually helps get the Stark reactor from Electro, so that defeats Electro. They're able to turn Connors back into himself. And this is where I found really funny too, I forgot to say this, the biggest Easter egg was when Electro basically gets defeated and sees who Andrew Garfield is in terms of him being Spider-Man. He makes a hint saying, I really thought there would be a black Spider-Man. So the fact that in the not so distant future we will have Miles Morales was great to see as well. And this is where it gets yet again annoying. Green Goblin, what does he do? He takes the box and basically he is fighting Peter Parker. And Peter is at the point where he wants to kill the Green Goblin for revenge for killing Aunt May. And basically what ends up happening is that he basically just starts beating him, laying the beats on the Green Goblin, and he's going to take his glider and he's going to stab the Green Goblin. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man jumps in front of the Green Goblin and stops him from being killed by the glider that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is using to kill him. But unfortunately, the Green Goblin obviously stabs Tobey Maguire, and then Tom Holland's able to inject the Green Goblin with the serum that's going to cure him from going into the Green Goblin. So basically, everything works out to the point where everyone's pretty much saved at this point in terms of, I honestly was going to get very triggered if Tobey Maguire died, but luckily it wasn't a next level stab wound, and they made a joke that this isn't the first time or the worst time he's been stabbed. So that being said, this is where we think it's pretty much over. Everyone's going to be sent back. Happy ending for what happened. Honestly, the fact that the only person that died was Aunt May, I would have been triggered, like I said, if Tobey Maguire died. But then Doctor Strange is up in the air, and then the whole universe just starts ripping, and all these people are coming in from other universes that still know who is Peter Parker. So at that point in time, there's nothing you can do, and that's when Peter Parker has to make the decision that at this point, if the spell can be done, the original spell that everyone will forget him, then if that's the only thing that he can do to save the universe, then that's what he's going to have to do. And he knows that once that spell is done, everyone will forget him. MJ, Ned, and they do this very heartwarming thing where he goes like, I'm going to find you, I'm going to tell you everything, and then Ned's like, don't forget about me, same with MJ. So it's very, very, I would say, like, just the way they wrapped it up was in the acting, and I would say Tom Holland's performance as well. We'll get into that after, but Tom Holland's performance, after seeing all three Spider-Mans on film, I know you can't really judge them like that, because obviously we're more invested ever since you had, Civil War in terms of Avengers. We've seen so much of Tom Holland in terms of being around other characters that we adore. It's not that fair to compare them with the other Spider-Mans, but I still think Tom Holland's Spider-Man's probably the most accurate representation that I would like to see on screen. So I think he just plays the role so well. And basically, Doctor Strange does the spell, and everything cools down. They get sent back home. Everything is good. And then Tom Holland's Spider-Man goes to see MJ, and she has no idea who he is. Same with Ned. And it was just so quirky because he wants to tell her, but he doesn't. And he's happy to see her that she's doing okay, but she doesn't remember everything or anything, not even anything, everything she forgot. So I just thought that moment was such heartfelt. The last scene of the movie is Peter Parker goes to visit Aunt May's grave, and Happy shows up and they have a conversation, but Happy doesn't remember that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So they exchange some words and make some references to Tony Stark and Lost, and I thought it was very well executed, well acted, just such a good way to wrap up the trilogy. And then in the post-credits, we have a scene where Eddie Brock comes to the MCU with Venom, and he's talking to a bartender, having explained that there's other superheroes and villains, and there's Infinity Stones and other aliens such as Thanos. And basically, as they're getting sent back to their universe, obviously when Strange does the spell, a piece of the symbiote is left behind. So a lot of people were asking too, why how is it that Eddie Brock is able to come into this universe, into the MCU? And supposedly what happens is that the symbiotes, they have something called hive thinking, hive memory, where if one experience from the symbiote has been in another universe, it can go somewhere else as well. Like they can live interdimensional to the point where if in the other Spider-Mans, we already saw like the black symbiote in terms of the original Spider-Man series in the last one. So the fact that, you know, that symbiote already knew Spider-Man, then that would mean that Eddie Brock, Venom would know Spider-Man as well. So that's how I'm trying to explain that the symbiote already has an idea of who Spider-Man is in terms of they know the real identity, and that's how Eddie Brock was able to come into the MC universe. But now that just opens up the fact that the symbiote is in the MCU. And then the last thing is the new trailer for Doctor Strange, the multiverse, where just his consequences of what he did in this movie in terms of opening the multiverse. We were going to learn more about it, and just the fact that we're going to have the Scarlet Witch and just that whole, thing built on from what we had in WandaVision is just going to be so good. So I'm just really excited. I don't want to bore you guys too much on the other stuff, but I think in terms of Easter eggs, so on and so forth, we're going to obviously have to break it down in the future, but this is just my basic analysis, Easter eggs, review theory. I would say that in general with this movie, without ranting too much, I think everything was very well executed in terms of the acting. Like I said, the acting was amazing. It had comedy when it needed to. It had sarcasm when it needed to. It had its very heartwarming moments. I would say Garfield carried that, truthfully. Tom Holland, obviously, too, when he lost Aunt May. But they played those roles so well in terms of showing the humanity in these characters, especially Peter Parker, because he is a young man trying to play a superhero but also have a normal life as well. So I think it was just very well executed. The way that they were able to bring back all the old villains and just have a storyline where people really got a full character arc. Like I said, Garfield, I think him being able to save MJ and having a sense of purpose, knowing that you can still make change after everything he's been through. Same with Maguire as well, and same with the villains. Hopefully they do good when they go back to their own universe respectively and can actually make some good change, because for a lot of them, they're all scientists, so they should be very easy to keep doing good, that they don't have to deal with bad stuff anymore. So I'm really excited in terms of this movie because it really shows the possibilities in terms of what can happen in the new movies and new universe that gets created. So very, very excited. I'll probably make some more in-depth analysis, but I'll leave it at that. If you guys did enjoy, like, subscribe, and until the next one, keep on watching.